There are many stories about Michael Sullivan. Some say he was a decent man. Some say there was no good in him at all. But I once spent 6 weeks on the road with him in the winter of 1931. This is our story.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheapseat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good.
I know that's supposed to be like machine gun fire, but it kind of sounds like a crazy typewriter.
Maybe I could have used that last week with the whole author thing.
Yeah.
On there.
Yeah. Either way, I think.
Yeah, the greater good.
The greater good. That was a crazy machine gun. I felt like I was watching Band of Brothers there, man. That was great. Because I'm on my annual rewatch of Band of Brothers. I'm on episode 3.
Hey, I finished that up about 4 weeks ago.
Nice. Yeah. There's
stuff.
Yeah, here we go. Anyway, it's episode 340. 340.
In the 40s now and 300?
340.
Good Lord.
We're just...
Man, Sam, you're old.
Yeah,
I know. I mean, I must have been doing this since the Great Depression or something.
Yeah.
This has been forever.
Well, it has been a while. It actually literally, as I'm looking at 340 on my screen, it just occurred to me that we are literally doing basic math, only 10 away from 350. We have to do something for 350. So we'll come up with something special.
Hey,
yeah,
let's do a podcast for 350.
Oh,
hey, that's an idea.
That's a great idea. And maybe we'll talk
Speaking
about
of Great Depression.
Yeah.
Speaking of Great Depression, that is what my wife calls our wedding night.
Oh, sure.
Oh, just kidding.
Oh man, we're starting off great tonight. This is episode 340, like I said, and we're talking about Road to Perdition. Road to Perdition.
Hopefully it's not in South Carolina, because then you just get your car destroyed on the way to perdition, if you're on that road.
Yeah, well, I used to live near Clemson. I think that's pretty close to that. So, yeah, it's pretty close. I am Sean Allred, and joining me tonight is Andrew, is also a bad getaway driver, Jimison.
I'm just a bad driver in general, whether I'm trying to get away or not. I like to side swipe guardrails, and I like to run on the little tire strip on the side of the road just so I can hear the noise, feel a little vibration.
Do you ever hit that rumble strip when your kids are about to go to sleep and you don't want them to go to sleep because you know that if they go to sleep, they won't sleep when they get home?
Yes.
I always want my children to sleep. I don't know what you're saying.
Well,
no, I'm kidding. Time for a little bourbon, children. Let's go.
It's funny, you make the joke and we're all laughing, but literally my brother-in-law, when he was, 3 or 4, they gave him eggnog with rum in it, literally to try to get him to go to sleep. And the next day he went to church and told everybody that his parents tried to get him drunk last night. That's a story that gets told every Christmas around the family. It's great. Sam.
Nice. Yes.
Always trust the bank manager Vector.
Yes. Us in finance or who have schooling in business services, we're very trustworthy folks.
You really are.
Should know that.
I do know
But
that.
Sean, just so you know, I'm not in my house right now.
Okay.
I'm actually sitting in a chair in the room behind you in the dark, just waiting. I've been waiting here for days, even hours, for you to come into this room.
Okay.
So just so you know.
Thanks.
Because I'm going to shoot you, and then I'm going to take a picture of you and sell it.
Why sell it? Well, I guess he does sell them. That's how he makes his money.
Yep.
Okay.
He keeps the proceeds of the pictures.
He does.
That's part of the deal.
That is part of the deal. That's a good deal, I guess, if you're a murdering photographer.
Weird dude.
Yeah. Also, joining us tonight, we have a special guest. If you've followed us on the social medias, you know that we have someone from a podcast from which we can't spell very well, but joining us tonight, making his Cheapseat Reviews debut, is Jesse, the 1931 John Wick from Sudden But Inevitable Podcast.
Nice.
Dig that. I would say that I'm back, but I've never been here before, so I guess I would say that I'm here.
There you go. Hey, man, thanks for joining us.
I don't know what Sean has over you, Jesse, but thank you for being here.
Oh, my gosh.
I do appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. I'm very excited to be here. Sean graciously appeared on the Sudden But Inevitable rewatch. And by the way, it's hard for me to spell it too. My phone autocorrects it now, so no big deal. But Sean was on our episode recently, and we discussed the episode Ariel, and it just felt like the only way to repay that great favor would be to come and be on your podcast. I am kind of honored, though, because you guys are like, you're a podcast in the mist, right? Like, you've been here forever. You're like this mainstay staple podcast, and we're brand new. So it's like, this is the coolest like legacy moment for us so far. I think this is easily the most established podcast that we have ever been a part of.
That was
Oh,
Jesse,
wow.
Could you share that with everybody else, like out in the podcast world?
Hey, just clip it and put it in a headliner ad, and we're good to go, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't! I'm taking the
good.
note right now. Let's see. At 16 minutes, Jesse was nice. Okay.
That's the last time you'll need to make that note.
Yeah. Well, I'll just simply say that was very kind words, and it was also the nicest way you could call us all old. I appreciate that.
Good to have a through line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is good. So Road to Perdition. Now, I know what you're thinking, listeners. First of all, you're kind of mad because this movie is no longer streaming. Literally, by the time we record, this movie is only on Amazon Prime for like 6 more hours. Oh, Jesse's giving me a
seriously?
finger.
I didn't know that.
But if you happen to be, I don't know, say a huge Trekkie, and for that reason have a subscription to Paramount Plus, you can watch Road to Perdition on Paramount Plus.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, cool.
Why? It's a Fox Studios movie.
Sean, I don't answer questions. I provide small facts.
Oh, okay.
Disney doesn't want Tom Hanks on Disney Plus,
Shooting
going around
people.
shooting people in the head.
Yeah,
So
that's fair.
Yeah.
He was really polite about it.
that is true. He was nice.
Yeah, he does kind of feel like he's like the most unassuming assassin ever. You know, just because we're so used to seeing Tom Hanks as the guy from Big, and I mean, even in Saving Private Ryan, he just still seems like the nicest guy ever, though he's killing Nazis. You know.
Now, for me, it was like the mustache. It just totally, I lost Tom Hanks' face in this movie almost immediately, which surprised the hell out of me because I was like, it's a Tom Hanks movie, you know? And I mean, even Daniel Craig in this movie, I was like, the way that he's acting makes him almost unrecognizable. It's amazing. It was like just this gorgeous, like pastiche film noir thing. Like, I loved it, but we'll get to that.
We will. So the other where I was going with that was that, yes, Road to Perdition. Sorry, it's going off of our normal streaming platforms, and also Sam kind of was giving me a little bit of grief in our text messages that 2 weeks in a row we're doing a movie, in Sam's words, where the dog dies at the end, and I 100% understand where you're coming from. So. Far be it for me to throw our guest under the bus, but this was the movie he picked, so therefore this is Jesse's fault.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm okay.
And
That makes more
far
sense.
be it from me to throw Sean under the bus, but it was picked from a list. It wasn't like he was like, "Hey, any movie in the world." Actually, I think he did do that, and I was like, "Could you narrow that down slightly?" And he gave me a list. So it's entirely on me. He's right. Now that I think about it, it's totally my fault.
I didn't. Well, I have. So basically, I did say, "Hey, is there anything you want to do?" But then I realized it's not like you have to go back and look at the 10 movies that we've done. You'd have to go back and look at the 340 or 39 that we've done. And I didn't want you to have to do that legwork because no one should have to look through our back catalog. So I just thought it would be easier to.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those movies that I had always like. I remember hearing when it was coming out. I remember being interested in it, and I just, for some reason, it never.
You never saw it?
Yeah. This
wow.
was my first experience with it.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. Andrew, had you seen this before?
This was my first time.
Awesome.
Wow. See, I saw this one before, but I think I saw it before I had kids. When did this come out?
Oh, gosh. Well, let's do this. Let's do all the particulars first. Andrew, would you mind doing the thing that I asked you to do 5 minutes ago?
Well, Sean, that's kind of private.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should do that on a podcast.
Can you do the other thing then that I asked you to do?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
So, what is Road to Perdition? For those of you that don't know, a mob enforcer's son witnesses a murder, forcing him and his father to take to the road, and his father goes down a path of redemption and revenge.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's actually pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, usually.
For was it IMDb?
Yeah, IMDb usually kind of messes that up, but they did a good job.
Well, kind of to the point.
Yeah. Plus, you read it; it made it sound better. So I think that's part.
Well,
of it.
and it is a Tom Hanks film, so they're going to spend more time in the description.
So and it's honestly, it was such good writing that it was getting John all hot and bothered. I'd never seen you taking your shirt off before while I was reading.
That's true.
Yeah, I had to.
It's a good thing this is just audio.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I had to drop a layer, man.
This is why we got kicked off of YouTube.
Actually, that's not his shirt. That's his natural skin.
Oh yeah.
True.
This is just my natural pallor is a bleached white T-shirt.
This is a winter look.
Yeah, well, this is actually my summer look. My winter look is it actually makes the camera like blind, like that. You know when you take your camera outside,
it's a whiteout.
Yeah, whiteout. That's the word. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the f-stop's all crazy and
exposure.
Anyway.
Too much exposure.
Exposure. That's a good word. Yeah, we can just keep using photography terms, and people will think that we know what we're talking about.
Aperture.
Absolutely.
So, Sam, to answer your question, this came out in 2002.
Okay,
so
this was before kids.
Yeah,
way before kids.
We were in college, and you were already collecting your Social Security check.
Shut up. Yeah, so I think my if I would have done the review back then when I first saw it, it would be completely different than today.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, but I'll get into that here in a second in terms of how I felt about the film. But certainly, becoming a father changes the way you look at some of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. But since we're here and your emotions are what we want to talk about now, let's go ahead and do your 5-word review.
All right. So I've got 2 of them. And my first one is, it's only 4 words, so someone can borrow one.
Okay.
And it is clear the room always.
Yeah. Yeah. Check your corners, look around.
Check the corners, clear the room always. But my real one here is beautifully shot father-son story.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it this time around. I think I spent the time. I would have complained the first time I saw it was too slow and that I was bored. But this time around, I really dug into it. And my God, the cinematography in this movie is just gorgeous. It's just beautiful. And the sweeping music that they use, every now and then it pops up on Pandora when I'm doing work and I kind of catches me off guard a little bit. But this movie is very artfully done, and there are some shots in this movie that are it's just art, right? Where there's one shot where the father's coming home when he didn't think he was going to make it. And it showed the kid sitting on the bed and the father coming down the hallway in two separate shots, separated by the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's deeper meaning to a lot of that kind of stuff here in this movie, and I appreciate it. The only problem I had in this whole movie was possibly the kid, right, who later grew up to be in Batman. Didn't he? Wasn't he somebody in Batman in the Nolan movies? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, but I didn't. It's not that I didn't care about the kid. It's just he didn't have the Hobbit-like deep eyes that showed emotion, I guess. Where he might have been maybe just a little too old for the role, or I don't know. I just didn't buy the kid as much as I might have had it been somebody else. I thought Tom Hanks did very, very well, and you got to give props to Jude Law and his receding hairline and just the creepy kind of rat-like nature to him as the assassin that they brought in to kill him. But this is one of those occasions where Hollywood told a complete story, I think. It has great parts. It has a great message. There is redemption. I'm glad the father was able to pull the trigger at the end instead of the kid. And basically, trying to keep him out of hell, and that whole idea where he wanted to keep his world separate. And but this was fun. I know you always laugh at me when I say these types of movies are fun.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Sam's gone.
Just like somebody else. I don't know. Okay. Well,
this was a good ride.
Oh, he's back.
That's why we're cheap seat.
Yeah, well, that was great.
Darn batteries. So no, I had a good time with this movie. Basically, that was wrapping up.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So, I'm with you in that I would have a different review when I saw this in 2002, and I own this on DVD, which will surprise probably no one listening, except unless you're listening to this episode because of Jesse, in which case I own a lot of movies on DVD. So I own this one. I've probably seen this movie 7 or 8 times, including this time.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I see that.
What is it about this movie that keeps you coming back?
I don't know. Well, I do know, but I don't know what it was when I was watching it in college. But I loved it then, and then now having kids, I love it even more now.
Huh.
Especially, I love it so much, and we'll get into that. But to your point, Sam, specifically about the cinematography, I do want to go here for a little bit, and also to answer your other question, the main kid, he would grow on. That's not a phrase. He would go on to be in. Well, I guess, but not an appropriate phrase. He would play Superman in the Supergirl TV show.
Okay.
On the CW.
In the CW. He does. He's in the CW verse, right?
That doesn't count as Superman, right?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
No.
I didn't think so.
No, it doesn't.
Like Superboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But no, he's not in the Dark Knight. He's not in any of those kind of things. So anyway, that's fine. He and the cinematography. This is directed by Sam Mendes, who recently did Sam, the 1917 movie.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm so enamored. I just love his style.
Yeah,
I like his music. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Thomas Newton Howard's the score is really.
No, Shawn Mendes.
Oh, Shawn Mendes. I'm with you. Sorry, I got to joke. I'm too old to know who Shawn Mendes is.
I have no idea what that is, but sure.
What is a Shawn Mendes?
I think my wife.
Is that an app I can get on my phone?
What are you saying, Jesse?
I think my wife listens to Shawn Mendes. Is that a pop star?
Yeah, my wife does too. He's a thing. He's fine.
It's a he.
Yes.
Okay. Sean is a man's name.
Yeah.
Well, you never know nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays. I mean, there's a famous Olympian gymnast, Shawn Johnson.
Yeah.
Only a Sean would know that.
Hey,
What?
Sean, how do you know Shawn Johnson?
Because
Yeah.
I met her.
That would-
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you run into her?
No. She was actually at the time recovering from a torn ACL, so she was on crutches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll have to tell Jesse that story offline. No one. I think I retold it like last week. No one else wants to hear the origin story of that joke. So the cinematography is so good because it's done by award-winning Conrad L. Hall. He won posthumously. It's a hard word for me to say, but he won.
Oh no, he's dead.
He died before the completion of the film. So all of the principal photography was done. So his part was done. But he died before the Oscar ceremony. So he won this. And I think this was his third win.
Okay.
He won 3 Oscars for Road to Perdition, American Beauty, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Wow, talk about a career.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So,
Goodness.
yeah. So,
I think the whole thing for me was just like, it felt so noir. Like they even had the kid reading the pulp, right? But it was like, it just, the first thing that I wrote down when I sat down to watch it, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I sat down to watch this movie last night and was like full note taking mode, promptly fell all the way asleep. And then today I was like, do I need to take some time off work to get this movie in? I got to text Sean. I don't remember what time he said. He said 7, but I don't remember if he said 7 my time or 7 his. Anyways, long story short, I just finished watching the movie right before we got on the podcast. So it's all very fresh in my head. The first thing I wrote down was, it's been a long time since I've seen a film that was filmed like a film. And I'm sure I don't really need to explain that to you guys. But for the audience, it's like, it wasn't a Marvel movie. I wasn't watching a movie. It wasn't, it wasn't a movie. It was a film. It was a series of still shots that were put together to create the illusion of motion. And so few movies and films I feel are done that way anymore, just because that's not what makes money right now necessarily. So it was a nice change of pace for me. And it was just, like going in, in that first frame with the kid in the center of the frame looking at the lake, you're like, this is a movie I need to really watch every frame of. I can't be looking away to write my notes. I need to just keep mental notes here because I have to watch this whole thing. It almost felt like it was black and white for like the first 5 minutes, even though it wasn't. It's just heavily desaturated and dark. But it was like, man, the hard lines and the contrast and everything, it was beautifully shot, beautifully put together. Yeah, I in case you can't tell, I really had a lot of fun, and it wasn't that I wasn't expecting to like the movie. It was just I went in totally blind. So to get when you hear, okay, gangster movie, you're like, okay, this is going to go one of 2 ways. And it went the right way. It was, thank you, Sean, for giving me the opportunity and the reason to watch this movie.
Well, and I think you make a great point that, you hear it's a gangster movie and you're waiting for the tropes, right? You're waiting for the usual. And they kept showing you different sides of the story and different views of how it meant to be in the mob and how it meant to do business with the mob. And I just love the fact that they showed us things that it was a new angle on the mafia story. And that's what I go to movies for. I want to see the new stuff. I want to see different takes. And I think they did it. They did it very, very well.
Well, to your point, Sam, about the kid, I kind of felt the opposite about him, because it was like, to me, he really nailed that, like, that kid on the cusp of manhood. Remember you're like 12 or 14 where you're like, I should do some of the manly stuff I've seen my dad do. And, we see that through the kid's eyes in this movie where they're like, I want to be like dad, but there's also some fear surrounding him because we don't really know what his job does, but it's like more of a respect than a fear. Like, the first scene where Tom Hanks walks in for dinner, right? I was like, I remember having dinners like that where I was like, oh, nobody's gonna talk to, like, dad has to talk first and then everybody else will talk, right? Not because we're like afraid of dad, just like out of respect and like, what if he's mad? Like, so I feel like the kid did a really good job of, like, it felt like he was holding his emotions back on purpose, right? Because he was trying to be strong for his dad and he was trying to be strong for his brother,
Yeah.
But I that's probably a taste thing, right? You either enjoyed the performance or you didn't. I felt like for me it was effective because he only had the one scene where he was really emotional, and in that one, I mean, he was like, even the guy next to him was like, are you gonna keep crying? Like, I'm trying to read the newspaper here. Like, so I really enjoyed that performance in particular.
Right on. Can't disagree there. Andrew, let's go ahead and have you do your 5-word.
Okay, I have 2. The first one is Hanks has a dark side. And I really, I love Tom Hanks. He's one of my favorite. I would say, if not one of, maybe the favorite actor of mine. And very versatile and very great with accents. Very just good at every film that I've seen him in. For the most part, Turner and Hooch is questionable, but everything else,
great film.
That was early Hanks. Early
Hanks. But we don't get to see him in a role like this very often. Where I won't call him a villain necessarily, but
he's an
anti-hero.
Get to see the
dark side.
Yeah,
anti-hero. Yeah.
And he's a bad guy in this for sure.
If he doesn't pull it off, right? I mean, it's like he can do it all. This guy is an actor down to the core, which is why he gets paid the big bucks.
You want to know how good? Hang on just a second. You want to know how good an actor Tom Hanks is? I read this in the trivia. I didn't capture it. I didn't write it down, but the scene where they're at the diner and him and Jude Law are sharing that moment, and you see the sweat rolling off Tom Hanks's head. That was just Tom Hanks. It wasn't like they sprayed him with water. He just started sweating. And I don't know.
Like most actors can't cry on command. He's like, oh yeah, hold my beer.
Hold my beer. I can sweat on command. It's just so great. Now, again, the trivia didn't say anything like they turned the studio to 103 to make him hot. Like, they didn't say anything like that, but like it was his sweat. I mean, that's what just is so great. So anyway, you're doing your second one.
Yeah, I'll get there in just a second. I just want to sidetrack here for just a minute. I hope that in real life, and I don't know for sure, but I hope in real life he's a great guy, because he comes across as an actor that just likes people. Maybe he's a complete and utter jerk. I don't know. And I've heard people say random things here and there once in a while, but I just feel like this guy, what's not to like about him?
So the only
so my second.
Well, sorry, I'm going to interrupt your thing again.
No.
Sort of this. I've not met him. I can't say that I've met him. I have worked with a sound mixer that did meet him. His name was Jonathan Gaynor. He was the sound mixer. He took my job as a sound mixer on Palmetto Point that I did last week with Will Triplett. Jonathan was the second unit sound guy for Forrest Gump. They filmed a lot of the Alabama stuff in Charleston, in the Charleston area. And so Tom Hanks bought all of the department heads gifts. They were there for like 6 weeks or 7 weeks, and he bought every Friday. He came to set with a new gift, and it started off as something simple as like, sunglasses, and then the next thing and the next thing. And so the last 2 gifts were a Forrest Gump bomber jacket that says Forrest Gump on the back, and then it had Jonathan's name embroidered on the front. Right? He got all of the department heads' names, and then the last gift was one of those, those movie chairs, those folding chairs that on the back it has, and it says on the back Jonathan Gaynor, sound mixer. And he didn't put Forrest Gump on it so that he could take that chair to any set and be recognized as Like that's such a cool thing, right? And
Yeah,
that was
that's great.
Absolutely.
and he did that out of his own
And see-
money. So I mean,
And that's the kind of the kind of stuff I would expect him to do. Just would I expect the same thing from Christian Bale?
no.
Hell no. But Tom
Aw.
Hanks, yeah.
You don't stay married for like 40 years without being a nice guy,
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Like, especially in Hollywood.
Yeah.
All right, you can now finally do your second 5-word review. Sorry.
All right. My second one, I did this one just for me, really. Kids, just don't be snooping. Like,
Don't be
Just
stupid.
when-
this is the whole problem. This was the whole problem. Had the kid just stayed in his bed where he's supposed to be, none of this would have happened. But that's the dad side of me coming out.
But see, but my question is, eventually it would have,
I th-
right?
Well,
Yeah.
eventually,
that's-
yeah, in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I think we all are feeling that at some point Daniel Craig was going to snap and kill the family because he was jealous, right? We talked about
Yeah.
this recently. Jealousy can be a powerful emotion, and it was pretty obvious that Dad was the grandpa. Paul Newman was very loving of Tom Hanks's character, Michael Sullivan, and less so of Daniel Craig. And Daniel Craig felt that. And I think, frankly, he was just looking for an excuse to do what he did, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Daniel Craig was certainly. I mean, you talk about a villain. He is the villain of this movie.
my gosh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Through and through.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
But to finish off here, I mean, I can't disagree with anything that's been said already, and I don't want to repeat anything, but I do want to say that this is just really well done. I said last week that we saw a piece of art in the way the cinematography was done for Atonement, but in this one, I feel like it's almost the same. I won't say it's quite as good, but there's some really good cinematography in this, and also the sound editing and there was one, I guess it was the scene where he was taking care of all the guys in Rooney's posse, and there's no sound and total silence, and it was just really well done right there. And it makes you focus on what he's actually having to do, and I don't know, that it kind of hit me. That scene kind of hit me. But then the last thing is the score. I love the score. I'm a music guy, and this music it spoke to me.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but a good majority of it.
Yeah. That main theme with that, whatever that reeded instrument is, it's not a bagpipe, but it's some kind of reeded
Yeah.
instrument.
It did sound sort of like a bagpipe. I felt like most of the music in this was, and I guess going back to that Irish mob history, that it was very Celtic in origin, and I love me some good Celtic music.
Yeah, definitely. Jesse, did you have one? You said you had two, I think.
I do. Yes, I have two. To continue the trend, the first one is kind of my actual one, and then the second one is the one I did for me. So the first one I have is bad Tom Hanks, still good. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen him play even a morally ambiguous character, let alone like a definitely on the wrong side of the law character before. And like I was saying before, that I swear it must have been the pencil mustache. I just lost him. It was like, I think the thing that is so impressive about him as an actor is that he is so just regular looking that that's probably partially what enables him to embody these roles so fully, right? Is that he's actually painting characterization onto his face, which itself is just kind of a regular, like, average of human faces. Like, he's just kind of a average looking face guy,
Yeah.
But the talent that he puts into these things they're mind blowing. And that accent, like I know what Tom Hanks sounds like, and I didn't hear Tom Hanks in this movie. Just like I know what Daniel Craig sounds like, I didn't hear Daniel Craig in this movie. All of the voice work in this was great, and yeah, the music, the score was very powerful. And that scene that you were talking about in the rain, where there is no sound, it's just the score. It was like, I love that. And they did that a couple of moments in the movie where they would play with the camera focus while they would play with what they were layering in sound wise, right? So like the camera would go out of focus and you'd only hear the score, or then it would change focus and you'd only hear the sounds, or you'd only hear the guns cocking, that kind of thing.
Well, and if you notice in that same scene too, the only time you heard the gunshot is when he finally killed Rooney, right?
Yeah.
So the accent was on, you felt every bullet coming out of that gun. There at the end. I love that choice by the director.
And it gave me like, I'm usually, I try not to like revel in the revenge story just because it's so done. Like it's been done 1,000 times, right? But I don't know about you guys. For me, I was like, yes, squeeze that trigger, like pull those, like I was just waiting for this guy to eat all that Tommy gun lead. I was like, this feels the most justified. It feels like the correct answer. It feels like the only way to solve the plot. Like everything in me wants this to happen in this movie. And it doesn't feel cheap, and it doesn't feel like a cliche. Go ahead.
And can I counter that by, I felt the opposite. I felt the fact that both of these people did not want to kill the other. Right? In both sides, Rooney didn't want to kill Michael, and Michael didn't want to kill Rooney, but they both knew that it had to happen one way or the other. And it kind of hurt my heart to see, to hear the father figure say, this is how it should be, or this is how I wanted it to be, or I wanted it to be you, right? I wanted it to be you. And to be, I don't know, a father looking at somebody you respected and they're doing what you've taught them to do. And you're doing, it's just, it's such a powerful moment of a father-son, dynamic that it hurts my heart when I see that. Right. I wish.
I think that's what I liked about it. And that's what I was enjoying that scene, is that it was like, it gave me that sense of like, this is revenge, but not in the way that I've seen revenge done so many times, right? Like it's revenge in that it's this character getting what he deserves, even if it's not done in a way that makes me feel good about it. Because to your point, 100%, like I don't know that I would have expected an emotional scene between two gangsters, right? But like for him to basically say, hey, you know what, I don't respect my own son, so I'm glad that you're the one who's here to kill me, is like, holy shit.
Gut wrenching.
And the other part that's really, kind of juxtaposition with the revenge story is that, when Mike kills Rooney, it's full of sadness and sorrow and pain and anguish because Mike has to do this thing. It has to be done. In his world, this has to be done. But whereas when he goes to kill Daniel Craig, it's just a cold calculating, this is the end of the line, right? There's no build up. It's just camera follows him in, boom, and then he bumps the door, and we get that great shot of the reflection.
So well done.
Oh, the reflection. Although I will say, I've got to say this, that took me out of the movie, mainly because I'm looking at the angle of the shot that he shot and the blood splatter on the wall, and I'm thinking to myself, bullets don't bounce like that.
Yeah.
So
I actually thought
that's
that
the
too.
only problem I had. I was like, wait a second, you didn't shoot him from below.
You're overanalyzing it there, Sam.
Yeah, I know.
But my second one that I wrote down, which is like, again, just for me, because I think it's clever, is Tom Hankster versus Jude Lawless, which is
that's like, great.
Hankster,
that's the whole plot of the movie. Like,
hey, that might be that's the title, dude.
Yeah,
Tom Hankster, Hankster. That's it.
I'm definitely going to use this clip too for a headliner. Just you trying to say that word.
So for him,
Did-
just to have this, like, I've seen Tom Hanks be a cowboy doll. I've seen him be a space astronaut. I've seen him be, a man who knows what love is. I've seen him be a soldier. I've seen him
Answer
you know,
email.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's like this guy, like you guys have all said. So, up to this point, the range on this guy, can you believe it? It's like,
Yeah.
I just, and
He's one of the most versatile actors I think ever.
yeah, and I'll be 100% honest. I generally have issue with Jude Law. Like, he looks so specific that you can't not see Jude Law, right? But
Yeah.
The face. Yeah.
in this movie, his affectation with his coin on his fingers and like the way that he slunk around the scenes and the way that he was just like
Greasy.
impossibly detached, like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but not in an insane way. Like he was detached, but like intelligent, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
he's clearly crazy, but
Purposefully
he's-
detached.
Yeah. And how about his introduction of how crazy he was
Oh, man.
with the photo session, and then the guy kind of coming back a little bit, and then he just goes over there and easily offs him again.
So I
Yeah.
thought that he was gonna be like, oh, here's the police photographer, and then he's gonna like somehow pick up a trail of like, oh, there's this gangster trying to take out other gangsters. Let me help the guy. Like, I had no clue, dude. Like, very well executed character moment. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
The
To
best
show that he is a sociopath, right? And remember too, everybody was dead when he shot Michael, right? Everybody was gone that was going to give him anything unless he was paid in advance for this job.
Right.
No, Stanley Tucci was the one who
Yes.
paid him, so he was gonna
Oh,
get
okay.
paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can we just really quickly, so like when I'm watching a movie that I've never seen before, I identify characters and settings where I'm like safe from the plot, right? Like, okay, nothing's going to happen in this scene that's going to like irrevocably change the direction the movie is going in, and I can feel comfortable with how much I'm
Mm-hmm.
enjoying this character's performance. For me, that was Stanley Tucci in this movie. I was like, yes, this is perfect role for Stanley Tucci. I believe him 100%. I love seeing him do this. I love the cigar. I love the pinstripe. I love the slick back hair. I feel 100% safe. I don't know what this character is going to do, but whatever he does, I'm cool with it because he's perfect. I love Stanley Tucci in this movie. Like, I love him in general, but when you get him in the right spot, there's kind of nobody better than Stanley Tucci. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy.
You want him
especially-
on your side.
Right,
basically.
for a side character that's gonna like have some importance but not take over your movie. Man, the guy is a master. I loved him.
Well, he's also super sleazy because even when Rooney says, "Don't hurt the kid," he still gives instructions to Jude Law to kill the kid. So
Now, and that's a question, right? So they also had that meeting where the I can't remember the actor's name, but he has the sleazy like lawyer face, and he ends up being the accountant,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And he's like, they said something about unions, and then Rooney goes, "Hey, look, we screw them when they get off work. We take their money. We don't need to screw them at work too, okay?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like this nice little, reminder, like, hey, here's when things started to change. Like here's where corruption becomes a thing that affects everybody in the country and not just the people in the back alleys and the speakeasies, that kind of a thing. And there was a couple moments of that. So he, the rest of his guys are thinking like, okay, well, when he's gone, we're going to have to listen to Daniel Craig. And to me, that's why Stanley Tucci did everything he did. He's like, there's no way in hell I'm going to end up listening to that sniveling guy. Like, I'll just end this whole family right now if I have to. Like,
Yeah. And you get the sense that he's intelligent enough to make that happen, right? Where he is somebody that can, I don't know about taking over the family business, but at least make things happen where he's more comfortable.
right.
yes, okay. So my 5-word, I wrote.
Moving on.
No,
Okay.
you're fine. I only wrote the one, and I just simply did sad road trip bank robbers.
Oh.
I'm glad they didn't call it that. I probably would not have watched it.
Yeah, doesn't make for a.
That's the alternate. That's what they titled it in England.
That was the code name.
Yeah, it's the code name when they send it to the theaters. It's sad. Sad road trip bank robbers.
Sad road trip bank robbers.
It kind of does sound like something Eeyore would say, doesn't it? What you watching there, Eeyore? Sad road trip with bank robbers. Okay. Actually, if I use the word with, I'll take from. Was it Andrew had only 4 and 1?
I had an extra.
Did you? Yeah. So I have the extra word. So I'll do a 6-word review and say sad road trip with bank robbers.
There you go.
What were you gonna say, Jesse?
I don't 100% remember.
Okay.
If you have a point, go ahead and make it. An additional point.
I don't. We've kind of said a lot of things that I really, really agree with, and there's not much more. The accountant man you were talking about, his real name is Dylan Baker, who, I mean, I kind of don't feel bad for him, but the fact that he was used as bait, and then like what happens to bait, it gets killed. He gets shot in the back by the guy what set the hook for the bait. So to keep the metaphor there, I think it's interesting. I also really found it interesting that the there was a subplot that just didn't matter. You know, that Tom Hanks finds the books, and then he finds proof that there's this corruption, and he gives it to Mr. Rooney, and he's like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh,
I know." And basically, he's my son. There's nothing I can do because he's my son.
yeah, exactly." It was just,
And like that's what I raised him to do, was be ruthless and take over shit. So
and here's my question. You know, the wake that they're at, where the brother is kind of gets up drunkenly and says stupid things before he's ushered out. That money that is missing, is that because what's his name stole the money?
Yeah, Connor, Daniel Craig.
So Connor inevitably, I mean, he basically passed the buck, and those 2 brothers got killed because of it.
Yes, that was what he was saying. Was like he's been opening accounts in dead people's names.
Yeah.
So it's like every time he wants to take money from you, he makes you think somebody needs to be killed from your organization or from somewhere in your giant.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, Daniel Craig, man, like I didn't know going in that he was in it, and the first time I saw him, I was like, "Why is he so creepy?" Like he looked,
he's Bond for God's sake. He's supposed
like,
to be, smooth and for the good. Yeah.
It was the hair, like it was that 30s hair, man. Like the grease that they were using must have been actually from the 30s or something. But I mean, not a lot of actors. I feel like not very many actors can do both halves of that so well. I mean, other than for say, Tom Hanks, but like to see Craig be that level of like make your skin crawl and just like,
he doesn't. Jude Law did it too.
That's true. But I think Jude Law does that for me. That's what I'm saying. Like Jude Law's face looks too much like Jude Law. You always see Jude Law, but in this, it was the hair. Again, with the hair, it was like they showed that widow's peak shaved off, and I was like, okay, I believe that he's a 1930s American guy. Like, and I'm sorry, you guys, do you all own long black peacoats and wide brim hats? Because I really want to buy a wide brim hat to go with my long black peacoat now. Like, that was just cool looking, right?
Yeah.
Like, I used to have a long black trench coat until the right after the Matrix, and then it wasn't cool back in the 2000s or whatever. But that's as close as I've come to something like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know if I could pull off a hat like that. I don't know if I got the right head shape for it, but I've got a black peacoat.
Yeah. My head's too big. It looked like a watermelon stuffed in a knitted cap or something.
Yeah, I like that image. That's great. I'm going to run through a few more notes before we do clips and other things that we do. Let's see. I did say it's still hard to watch him shoot the wife in the back. That was a hard scene to kind of watch.
And she tries to protect the son.
Yeah,
and
she does what a mom does, and it's just rough.
Yeah.
I did write, this this is one of those moments where I don't know. It's an intense moment when Mike is forcing his son to hold a gun, right? He's yelling at him, take the gun. And the first thing the kid does is he looks at the gun, and by doing so, he turns it directly towards his dad. I don't know if you noticed it, but the barrel of the gun is literally, I'm like, come on, kid, like muzzle control or whatever, or muzzle discipline. Yeah, there's a little bit of discipline there. So I don't know. Maybe that might have been a director's choice, saying let's show that he doesn't know anything about guns and how they work and safety and stuff. But I did notice that.
Well, and I think to your point about how there was this subplot that sort of didn't seem like it mattered, I think that that's supposed to sort of mirror the kid's journey in the movie, right? So like the kid goes from, when his little brother first asks him, what does dad do? He's like, he goes on missions for Mr. Rooney, and he like fights people and kills people and does all this stuff. He has a gun, like, you don't know. And it turns out that he's actually kind of just making that up. Like, he knows that there's a gun involved, but he has no idea why.
Yeah.
So then his version of, his picture of reality and what reality actually are, when those two things run into each other, the kid like breaks down, right? And that's the same thing that happens to Tom Hanks, because he goes, hey, here's the story. I've cracked the case. I figured it out. And he's like, no, what you think this is about is not what this is about. Your version of this story and reality, two different things. Yeah. And now that they're crashing together, it's going to break you, because the only option you have left is to kill your surrogate father or be on the run forever with your son. So do one of those two things.
Yeah. Yes, that's actually a really good point, and I hadn't thought about that, and I'm now happy that you told me. There's another really interesting metaphor that kind of stays in the movie, and that is water signifies death in this movie, right? So it's raining when Mike and Jude Law go to go see the guy. That guy, Syrian something, his real name, Syrian.
He's King of the North.
Yeah, exactly. He's King of the North. He's Irish, but the first thing I saw him in was he was the Russian president in Sum of All Fears, so I just associate him with the Russian accent. So
that's
that when
I recognized him.
So when he's talking with this, Irish, this Boston or this New York, Chicago, whatever kind of accent, I'm like, oh, this is so weird. Anyway, when they go to talk to him, right, it's raining, okay? And then when Daniel Craig goes to their house, it's raining. Plus, the boy just got out of the bath, right? So there's another moment. And then the ocean, right? They're at the ocean when Tom Hanks gets shot. And then, of course, the rain scene where Tom Hanks, murders the rest of the Rooney crew. It's also raining. So it's a constant throughout the movie. Oh, plus Daniel Craig gets shot in the face in a bathtub.
There's something I just realized while you were talking. So in the Japanese culture, right? So in America, right, we wear black to mourn, and we wear black to funerals and stuff like that. But in Japanese culture, white is the color most associated with death, right? So what do we have in this movie? We've got snow. We've got the white flash of the Tommy gun in the black alleyway. We've got Tom Hanks in the white shirt when he finally gets shot at the end of the movie. We've got Daniel Craig in the white, pristine white bathroom when he gets shot. We've got Tom Hanks in the pristine white room of the beach house when he gets shot. It's a black and white water and life and death. Like, I didn't even realize that until you started talking about water, Sean. That's amazing. And to go with like the film noir aspect of this, that level of balance on black and white, like, you guys, I'm getting goosebumps right now and I'm freaking out. So I'm gonna have to stop talking. One of you has to talk.
Oh, no worries.
Well, are we to assume that the aunt is dead?
I'm making that assumption because otherwise he would stay with them, right? Little Mikey would stay with her. Yeah. So I'm making that assumption. I don't think I guess we're going to have to explain it again. We have a it's not a trope. I guess it is a trope that we use on the podcast called the hopping man kind of mechanism. So again, if you're a new listener because of Jesse or just a new listener in general, you'll hear us if you continue to listen. Great. We use a phrase called a hopping man. It's a trope that we associate when a movie introduces an idea or a person, typically a person, and then we never see them again. And it goes back to our episode of Darkman, where there was a guy who was literally hopping on a leg, and we see him twice, and then the third time the gang is there, he's gone.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to our
He
Darkman
didn't make it in
episode.
that day.
He was just not there for whatever reason. And so we associate things. So my point is that I don't think she's a hopping man. I just think we're led to believe that she's dead. So,
Well, and even if she isn't, she's a danger, right? Like even if she's not dead, she's not an option anymore. So it's like effectively she's dead either way.
Yeah.
Right? Because he wouldn't go there even if he thought she wasn't dead. He wouldn't go there now. So
No, that's a good point, because that means Mr. Nix, whatever, Tucci, right? Even if he decides that Michael needs to die, or Mikey, whatever, little kid, Junior, needs to die, and he sends someone to the sister's house, he'll find either, one, she's dead, or two, she's alive but by herself.
Right.
Like there's nothing tying him to the old folks that he goes and lives with on the farm at all. So he's essentially Luke on Tatooine.
Well, except that only works because they didn't have forensics back then, right? Like they would have gone, well, there are 5 houses in 50 miles. Let's just check all 5. Like,
well, yeah, we don't know how far back that he was traveling, and I also think it's interesting that he was coming from the same direction, from the left, right? Because he showed up, whatever.
Oh, okay. And question: was the farmhouse that they stopped at, was that after they passed that very prominent crossroads?
I
remember there was one shot that pulled out from the crossroad for like 8 seconds straight. Oh, you know what? That might have been right before they stopped at the diner, now that I think about it. But I feel like it was the same, and I'm sure that it wasn't, but like the way it was shot made it feel like the same crossroads from spoiler alert, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Mm-hmm.
It just gave me that exact same feeling. And I would, of course it's an obvious visual metaphor when they do it, but they really stretch that crossroads out, I think, to give us like, look, he could still go in a couple of directions. It's not any direction at this point, but it's a couple of different ways that he could go about this.
Right.
I loved that shot.
I like the establishing shot when we're meeting Jude Law for the first time, where they do the thing where they zoom out with the camera but push in with the physical camera. I like that stretchy thing. That was very popular in the 2000s or the early aughts, and I liked it. I still like it. I think it's a very viable thing. Worst, I said not the worst cop we've ever seen, but there's a guy in the street shooting, and you walk up to him and go, "Hey," without your gun drawn, you kind of deserve to get shot. I'm just saying.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to ask. He's shooting something.
Yeah. I know it's the 30s when we're just used to everybody having guns and, Tommy guns and whatever, but
yeah.
Anyway.
I love that this movie had a Chekhov's Tommy gun instead of just a regular handgun.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. Last couple notes here is I'm typing something here. Sorry. No, that's it. That's actually it. I love the mirror, and then my last note was I love this score. That's it. Clips now. Ready for some clips?
Clippy clips.
Here we go. This sounds like a very Irish thing to say.
Let's drink to Danny's honor. Let's wake him to God and hope that he gets to heaven at least an hour before the devil finds out he's dead.
I like that. This was a great scene. I love this scene. It's kind of a long scene. I had to cut it a little bit so that we weren't going to be sitting here for a minute listening to silence. So it's 28 seconds, so kind of tuck in a little bit. But I think this was a very powerful scene, and that's why I captured it.
I'd like to apologize for what happened, especially to you, Pa. 2 weeks and a month. What can I say?
We lost a good man last night. You think it's funny? Try again.
I'd like to apologize.
You would like to apologize? Try again.
That's so great.
That doesn't sound like Daniel Craig. We were talking about how he disappears into the voice, and if you would play that for anybody, they would not be able to identify who that is playing that character.
Yeah,
and he puts that gangster why, right? Like that. What could I say? But he doesn't overdo it. He's not like making fun of Americans or anything. Like he lands it perfectly.
Yeah.
Andrew, you mentioned sound design a little while ago. I only keyed in on it when I was capturing the audio, and again, I've said this 1,000 times, or at least 300 or so. That when I go back and get the audio clip, I usually key in on something different than I did originally. And when he smacks the table, there is silence. We get to hear the echo of that smack for what feels like an hour before he says anything. I think it's just great. I don't know if that was a result of an edit choice or a director or an actor choice to let the moment breathe. Don't slam your hand down and then immediately jump into the insult or to the verbal slap down, right? Like just take a moment, let it breathe. And I think it's such a great acting choice or choice.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where somebody's done that, slammed their hand on the table or out of anger and frustration, but you can feel it in a room. When you know that somebody is that angry, no one's going to talk, especially if it's the guy that, the head of the family, and you're supposed to respect this person. And so I think it was because of that, but it was also, like you said, just a great little sound present that they gave us.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of humor in this movie.
You gonna frisk me?
Should I?
It's a good idea.
There you go. Thought that was kind of funny. I also liked, I kind of felt bad for that bodyguard guy. He had a really, for a dude that's just a bodyguard, he had a really kind of deeper understanding of what was going on during the Depression.
Always money for frills and twists, and never money for food. Sometimes I despair of the species,
I just like that phrase, despair of the species.
Well, and to be looking for a job when you're pretty sure the guy you're talking to is there to kill you, like that really shows the desperation that some of those folks were going.
Yeah, he might not have known he was there to kill him, but he didn't know what he was there. He might have been thinking, well, he might be here to kill my boss, and if he kills my boss, I'm going to need a job, so maybe I could come work for you. Here's Jude Law being creepy.
I shoot the dead.
There you go. That's all I did. I didn't really get a whole lot of Jude Law talking. He didn't have very many lines, honestly, so... but that's okay.
And most of his lines came in his exchange with Tom Hanks. Like that was probably 90% of his dialogue, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the only other really heavy dialogue moment was when he's on the phone getting the instructions.
And telling the boy to give him the gun.
Oh yeah, he did have like one or two lines at the end. I did see something in the trivia, like in the last 20 minutes of the movie, there's only 6 lines of dialogue. There's a lot happening with very little talking, which is, I think, actually kind of great. Yeah,
it is.
Last one I got.
But if I read about this in the papers, if I read about the savings of some innocent farmers being wiped out by a heartless bank robber, I won't be happy. Good afternoon.
You really trust me not to say anything?
Always trust a bank manager.
And then he pockets the cash. He's great.
I That's the last one you got?
Yeah. Is it not?
Oh, well, you missed one.
Did I?
Yeah, I got it though. I got you covered.
Oh. Okay.
You didn't catch that one?
No, I didn't. I missed that somehow.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a snake in his boot too. I think
he was getting ready to. He was getting ready to pop some guys and cap them, and that's when you missed it.
You know what?
It was raining.
You know what the funny part is about that? I assume that you have the toy there with you, right?
No, it's actually from YouTube.
Oh, okay. So the toy, the actual toy that you buy, is voiced by
his brother. Right?
His brother, yeah.
Yeah. Which
is it really? Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, he confessed that on a talk show of sorts, some talk show.
The Graham
Norton show, yeah.
Yeah. I saw that same clip.
Yes, time for this.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
This movie is loosely based on actual events and a real enforcer for mobster John Looney, who was betrayed by him.
Now, wasn't this possibly also based on a graphic novel about that person?
Yeah, the screenplay in the movie was based on a graphic novel. The story itself is based loosely on a real thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It feels real. Like it feels like it has that twinge of like this would probably happen if that were the setup.
Yeah. To create a villain that could challenge the physically imposing Tom Hanks, director Sam Mendes wanted Jude Law to seem rodent-like.
Weird, because
well, there you go.
Snivelly and creeping around and very
bad teeth. Oh, his teeth weirded me out.
Yeah.
For the bank robbery sequences, Michael Sullivan Jr., Tyler, his real name, Tyler Hoechlin, whatever, he had to learn how to drive, something that he was happy to do. Tyler mastered it all easily, but just to be on the safe side, a stunt driver was sitting in the back with his own set of driving controls. Oh, Sam. What did this movie have that we haven't had in a long time? We had a montage. We had a bank robbing, kid trying to learn how to drive stick and get away montage of that montage was great, and it was funny too. It was just downright funny. He creeps up and he's just take your time. Not in a hurry. And the next time he goes flying past him, and another time he almost cuts a car. It was great. It was so good. So good. Montage.
And the music was so much fun. It was like a jaunty bank robbing tune.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, well, yeah, because we know that he's robbing from Al Capone, so who cares?
Right.
I mean, it's not like he's robbing from people that are struggling in the 20s or in the 30s. Okay, and then the last trivia that IMDb offered me was Sam Mendes confessed that Paul Newman walked on his hands between takes to amuse the crew on set.
Holy crap.
It's amazing.
Do that at 30. I don't know how he's doing.
My God.
Yeah, really.
Now,
it's amazing.
I have another story to tell here, and bear with me. So last week we had Will Triplett on the show. Will was an actor. I guess technically he still is an actor. He worked with me, or I worked with him, more appropriately, on Palmetto Point down in Charleston all those years ago. And he stayed in the business and has continued to have a career as a writer and other things like that. So I sent him a message and said, hey, because when he found out last week that we were doing this movie, he was very excited, and he mentioned very specifically that this cinematographer was his favorite cinematographer. He was, in love with his work. And I sent him this piece of trivia that I thought was really great. I said, this is a trivia. One day when cinematographer Conrad Hall was setting up a shot of Paul Newman, Hall looked through his viewfinder and began to cry. When asked what was wrong, he said, "He was so beautiful. He was so beautiful." This is the final live-action feature for both Hall and Newman before they both died. They'd also worked together on Cool Hand Luke. So these two had a... So Will says, I've got some trivia for you. Paul Newman's final scene in the film was his scene in the basement. It was his last shooting scene. It was the scene in the basement where he's talking about his son's death. He gave an Oscar-worthy performance in that scene. This is Will talking, for which he was absolutely chilling. Which, what I didn't know when I saw it for the first time was that Newman's son had just died in real life, and the scene had nothing to do with the performance. He was just wearing his heart on his sleeve. They only did one take for coverage. It was all he could handle. Afterwards, he requested to go back to his trailer. So when his eyes are red and weepy, he's using real life to emote. And it's just rough. Yeah. It's just rough.
Wow.
The second part of this that Will told me is true story. This is Will talking. Again, also, this is a true story. I had the opportunity to meet Paul Newman twice. I served him at a restaurant I was working at in New York City when he was meeting with his agent. He ordered a ribeye steak with fried onions and 3 Amstel Lights. We talked for hours about my acting path, and he gave me the most amazing advice. 2 nights later, I'm at work, and he comes in and asks the hostess, is Will here? Same story. We talked for 2 hours just hamming it up about shop. He ordered the same thing. He died a week and a half later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just crazy.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
It is.
Like maybe you should have had Bill on this episode instead of me. That's pretty.
Well, I am thankful for Will and his friendship and the fact that I'm able to pull his expertise and I think how far he's come from that bad TV show that we worked on all those years ago. Even he will admit, and I love to joke about it. I can joke about it now because 1, it was bad, and 2, I was bad at my job. So it also makes it really more enjoyable for all involved. One of these days, I seriously think that I'm going to I have the pilot on DVD. And if I rip it and let you guys watch it, maybe we should review just the pilot. I don't know how other people could watch it legally because I don't have permission to do that. But anyway, we'll find a way. Or I don't know. Time for this.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Time for our top 3. We decided to do movies set during the Depression era. And I will let Andrew goes first because his are always the best.
I get to go first?
You usually go first on these.
Yeah, but recently you put him last because he's...
Oh, you're right. Andrew goes last because you're the best. You're right. Sorry. Guest Jesse
I got
goes
excited
first.
for a minute.
No, Jesse goes first because Andrew, you're the best. That's right. I forgot my own thing. I even have it written here, and I'm screwed up.
I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just went for it.
Nah, you're fine.
As a podcast host, I fully understand the pain of writing down and planning everything and then forgetting to reference it despite it being directly in front of you. So the first one that came to me, we'll call this a bonus because it's not actually a Depression movie. It's just a movie that's in black and white that I love, that I was immediately reminded of when I saw this movie, even though it's not in black and white, just kind of some of the cinematography, which is 8.5 by Federico Fellini. It's I think it's 1963, possibly the single most visually gorgeous film I have ever seen in my life. Black and white, like I was saying, very, very stark color lighting differences, just like this movie. But my number 1 Depression era movie has to be Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I know I mentioned it earlier, but like that movie is perfect in so many ways, and it's this piece of comfort, like you were saying. I think you were saying earlier, Sam, that Hollywood told a complete story with this movie. They just gave us this one story that from start to finish. And I definitely felt the same way about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Now, the caveat there being that's, the Odyssey. But it's still a very well-made movie. And I love the color grading in that. And just that very old-timey bluegrass music soundtrack to that movie just makes me want to cry.
That's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, some of the tracks on that soundtrack literally physically make me cry when I listen to him. That rendition of "Oh Death" on there is like mind-blowingly good. And then "Go to Sleep," the song that the sirens sing in the river.
Yeah.
First lullaby I ever used on my daughter, and it worked a charm. So maybe not child appropriate, but she doesn't know that.
I used to play the song that the dwarves sing in the first Hobbit movie when they're singing about the destruction of their home. I used to play that for my kids because it's a low frequency, so I would let my, it would put them right to sleep. So
nice,
brilliant. I should try that. Yeah. The second one I wrote down, also classic, obviously, To Kill a Mockingbird. That was kind of one of the only other movies I could think of that took place during the Depression, but immediately was like, oh yeah, that has to be on there. When we were, about to have our child, we were discussing names, and if we'd had a boy, I wanted his middle name to be Atticus, to match my middle initial, but also just because very strong name and the kind of namesake you could be proud of. I think you want to, show your kid, hey, look, you're named after somebody who really did it right, even though it was hard to do it right. And, you could probably go back and litigate To Kill a Mockingbird if you wanted to, but the point of the Gregory Peck character from the movie was that he was doing the right thing, so I really love that movie too. And then the last one feels like a cop-out, because it's also Tom Hanks, but it's The Green Mile. And
yes.
That's, when you were saying earlier, that what your wife calls your wedding night, this was actually what my wife called our wedding night because I was sick. So Green Mile.
Oh no,
that's disgusting.
Oh,
I wasn't really sick. I just had to get one of those in there.
No, you're great. That's great.
I had pulled muscles in both my legs playing laser tag the morning of my wedding, and I literally needed help up and down off the toilet and into the tub and like off the bed. I was an invalid for at least 2 days after my wedding. It was crazy.
Oh, what idiot took you to play laser tag?
I don't know. Jeez. What idiots let me run around like I was running around like playing laser tag.
At least you didn't get sunburnt like Chad's wedding.
That's true.
This is the kind of thing you only get with experience, right? Because I would have never thought to tell my friends, hey, whatever you do, don't play laser tag 2 days before you get married. And now I know to tell them that.
Well, exactly. Well, you can play it, just don't.
You can't be crazy.
Go 100 miles an hour. Because act like an 18-year-old when you're. I guess I was still 20 something. But
yeah, I was 25, and we also still played laser tag the day before my wedding. So.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's not been that long ago actually that we played laser tag, and I have to say, God, the style in which you guys play laser tag now is it's vastly different than what you're describing.
Hey, I was running around. I was not just camping in a corner. I was doing some running.
Yeah.
Sam was though camping in a corner. I couldn't find him though.
Yeah, I went upstairs and was camping.
Yeah.
So,
Sam, what you got? Jesse? Was that your 3?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm not much different, except I added Cinderella Man at number 3 with Mr. Crow. I've got Green Mile at 2, and then the movie that if it's on, I'm watching it. If I'm channel surfing, I'm stopping to watch it, and it's Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go, but before I go, I'm actually gonna let Twitter and Facebook tell us what they said. So Facebook, Melissa said Of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird. We also had on the Twitter, I'm pretty sure I'm going to give credit, right, Jesse, that Cameron runs the Green Shirt Twitter account.
Yes, sir.
So Cameron posted the King Kong movie. He also...
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that one.
He's a film nerd.
And he also did The Journey of Natty Gann, which has John Cusack and...
He's kind of all about the deep cuts. Like, that's his
style.
And Yeah.
And then he also said the Warren Beatty Dick Tracy movie.
Okay.
So thank you to Cameron, who we have scheduled on the podcast in like 2 or 3 weeks. So
Very cool. You guys are gonna have a blast with Cameron. He's one of those guests that makes you feel like he knows your thing better than you do, like about half the time.
Oh no.
yeah, it's every guest. That's all the guests. That's okay. That's why we invite them on, because they know more than we do. I'm switching out some of my top 3 because Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is great, and I kind of figured with this category, I think we were all going to pick it, so that's why I didn't. So my number 3, and you guys can rip me or my man card all you want to, but I think it's a good movie, and that's Water for Elephants.
I just found that book downstairs that I was thinking of reading. Is it a love story?
It is.
Okay.
It's a love story set during the Depression. Having not read the book, I don't know, but
Do the elephants die at the end?
I'm not going to tell you that, but I am going to tell you.
But wait, I have to know because I refuse to watch.
No, the elephant does not die at the end. In fact,
that's all I need to know. Thank you.
The elephant does not die, and in fact, the elephant, in this case,
don't ruin it.
Okay, I know the movie. I don't know what he does in the book, but in the movie, anyway. But Christoph,
he gets water.
He does get water. Yeah, Christoph Waltz is kind
the
of
elephant finally gets a drink.
Christoph Waltz is the bad guy in that movie, and he is just as terrifying in that movie as he is as a Nazi in Inglourious Bastards. I mean, he's.
You would like to feed your elephant some butter.
My number 2, I did The Highwaymen that we did for the show.
Was that again? That was. Wait, was it during the Depression?
Yeah, it was the whole Bonnie and Clyde running stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was getting it mixed up with that other, with the Texas. Yeah, never mind.
Okay.
Kevin Costner, I think, was in that one. Can't remember what else.
Well, yeah, Highwaymen. Yeah, Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson are in Highwaymen, and they're after Bonnie and Clyde. We watched it for the podcast.
I don't remember. It's been like 300 episodes ago.
It was like 25, but that's fine. Still like half a year ago.
They all start running together.
Hey, it's during COVID, so time is all weird. That's all I know. Yeah. And my number 1, I did Legend of Bagger Vance.
Oh, Will Smith.
Yeah. I like that movie. I just think it's a sweet movie. I think it's really nice. And I think
movie?
Yeah. Well, to call it a golf movie is like saying The Natural is a baseball movie. It's baseball is just the vehicle that moves the plot forward. Right. The plot is yeah. All right, that's it. Time for this thing.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
Oh, wait, what? Gosh dang it, Andrew. This is what happens when I screw up my own thing. Andrew, what is your top 3? I'm used to going last. Andrew.
God, I just get crapped on.
This is twice I've done this. I did this to you last week. Gosh dang
it. I even saved my price check on Vagisil joke when you were talking about your man card. I saved it because I thought, no, Sean's going to remember me this time, so I'm not gonna rip him one. All right. So I also had Dick Tracy on my list, but since one of our listeners mentioned it, I'm going to move that down to my honorable mention. I have Gandhi at number 3, which technically takes place during that time, even though it's not technically in the Great Depression as far as being in the United States proper. I have Ray with Jamie Foxx at number 2.
Okay.
And then number 1, I have The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I think that's World War I.
That's World War II. That's 19.
Is that World War II?
That's 1940s. Yeah, we were kind of out of it.
It's a little bit after, I guess.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Okay, it was. It's reaching.
You were close.
It's reaching. Well, then I'll replace it with Dick Tracy, then, which in my notes I put as Duck Tracy. I don't know why I did that, but
yes,
I'll replace it with that.
Autocorrect strikes again. Okay. It was well worth the wait. I apologize, Andrew, once again for doing it two weeks in a row. All right. What was that? Daniel, gosh, what's his name? I'm so
Radcliffe?
Yes, thank you, Daniel Radcliffe.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
This is where we do our score out of 10. Now, Jesse, I was on Jesse's show, the Sudden But Inevitable podcast, where they review Firefly, and they do a score of out of 10. Now, of course, we do decimal points on this podcast because after 300 episodes, you have to. So I went on there with my smart-ass self and said, I'm going to give the episode Ariel a 9.76. I gave it a 9.6, and he's like, you're flipping killing me, dude. Because he's trying to do the math to average it out. And so he was giving me some grief. He's like, I'm going to put a stop to this decimal point garbage. And I said, well, you must embrace the decimal when you come on our show.
It's because the next week somebody immediately was like, I think like 8 point, and I was like, okay, relax, just chill. Well, and what it was is because after you said 9.6, Josh was like, I'm gonna go, since we're doing that, I'm gonna go 8.3, and I'm like, dude, so it wasn't you, it was my crew. Like, yeah, it was, yeah, but yeah, I brought a decimal with me just to fit in.
There you go. Great. Andrew, you go first this time, and I mean it.
You sure you don't want me to wait till the end?
No, and then forget you.
I can wait till the end.
and then forget you.
Okay, well, I think I'm just going to jump in with this one I liked. This one I couldn't find much wrong with. And everyone did a great job in this. And Jude Law, I think, we didn't talk that much about him, but I think he really was one of the better actors in the movie, aside from Hanks. But they all did great. So I'm going to give this a 7.4.
Okay. Just for point of reference, IMDb gives this 7.7 with 200 and almost 50,000 votes. So that's you're tracking right along with just about everybody else. Jesse, I'll let you go now.
To your point about Jude Law, I think 100% correct. And that scene in the diner is like, that's masterful right there from both of the guys in that scene. And I think what really struck me about it was that they both know that the other one is a killer, but only one of them is nervous about being in the room with the other one. And I think that's because Hank's character recognizes this guy isn't about loyalty. He's not the same kind of killer I am. This guy is a killer, like who kills it because who does it because
he's a sociopath. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he'll kill everybody in this diner to kill me. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that's where the nervousness was coming from because he knew he could handle himself, right? He's like, I just don't know about this entire situation here. I, having never seen this movie, I don't know how this is going to sound, but it's honest, so I'm going to say it. I generally expect not to like most movies that I see. Like, it's like, you know how most music, right? There's a billion songs, and most music is pretty average at best or bad. And then there's some really great stuff. I think movies are the same way. Books are the same way. Food is the same. Literally anything is the same way, right? But I just generally go in expecting to go, it was okay, but this, that, and the other thing. I had so much fun with this movie. Like, I really, it's not that I wasn't expecting to. It was just like, damn, this is kind of out of nowhere for me. I mean, especially me, because usually I'm waiting a week to watch an episode of Firefly and then Star Trek, or whatever it is. So this is generally outside of my normal wheelhouse. But it shares this quality with Mad Max Fury Road, where if you turned off all the audio, you could pretty much still get the plot of this movie. Like, it's told so visually and so beautifully and in such a way that is meant to be visual that, like, if you weren't hearing it, you'd still get it, right? Like, I immediately understood that the kid was uncomfortable. Even though he wanted to be at the grown-up party at the wake, he was still uncomfortable because he didn't know what was going on, and there's grown-up stuff happening, and he's like, wait, what's going on? And they did a really great job of putting us in his shoes. I didn't know what was going on either. I knew there was something going on. So for me to just step into a movie like that and then come out the other side of it having really enjoyed it and having been surprised at the efficacy of the acting and the beauty of the cinematography and the deftness with the score is laid over everything, I have to give this movie an 8.917.
Nice.
Because it's very close to an A for me. I think it probably emotionally is an A for me. But if I'm trying to get somebody else to watch it, I would probably say, dude, very solid B+, because I don't want to set their expectations too high. So yeah, that's my rating.
There you go. Now you're embracing the decimal. I like it. Sam.
I cannot do much more than describe it that way. This movie hit a sweet spot for me today. When I went into it already seeing it and already ready to bash it for being too slow, I sat and loved this thing. And music's great, cinematography is great, acting is great. When the only problem I have is possibly the kid didn't sell me as much in terms of caring about him, and the angle of the blood splatter after the assassination in the tub. It's a good movie. So I'm up there. I'm going to give it an 8.52 out of 10.
All right. I like that. Yeah. I can't disagree either. I think we all really universally like this movie, which is not always a bad thing. I own this on DVD. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's probably been 10 years since I've sat and watched it, but I liked it more this time than I did when I bought the thing. I just really enjoyed it. So,
and
when
for
was the
Jesse's
last time you saw it?
Sorry, go ahead there, Sam.
When did you see it last, Hope?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. It was definitely before kids. It was definitely before my son.
I think that's the difference right there.
And my son's 8.
And what were you saying, Andrew?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, for Jesse's listeners, DVDs are these things that they used to put movies on.
Sean already explained that when he was on our show. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, see, we used to paint on walls, on cave walls, and then use a flame, and it kind of made them look like they moved a little bit. So
the moving pictures.
I owned movies on tape, you guys. I've dialed a rotary phone before. I didn't own it, but
he saw one in a museum. It's pretty. I think this movie is really good. I would almost use the word great. I think it's fantastic. If you've not watched it, if you're listening to this show just for our sake or for Jesse's, please go watch this movie. Find a way to get a hold of it, I guess, on Paramount Plus. Or, shoot me a message and I'll mail you my DVD. And I'm just kidding. I'm not giving that up. It's go watch it. It's really good. Find a way to watch it. It's so good. Tom Hanks is great. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to give it an 8. I'm just going to give it a simple 8 because it actually works out for the rest of the math to on the average. So averaging this out at an 8.20925. I think that's a good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think that's good. Gosh, that's it. That's the show. My gosh, this was so much fun. Jesse, please tell us all the ways that we can find you and the things that you do.
Oh, gladly. Before I do that, I just want to say one more time, thank you, Sean, for inviting me on, and Andrew and Sam. I've had just a blast. Like, this has been really enjoyable for me. This is the second time I've ever guested on a podcast, and I feel like a little kid. Like, this is a dream come true for me to be on a show that I don't have to edit and that I don't.
Well, we don't edit
have
either,
to,
though.
Yeah,
that's
like
the thing.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything. I just get to sit here. So thank you, and I've had an awesome time with you guys, and I'm slowly working my way through your backlog. Trust me, it's happening.
Oh, dear
but
Lord.
it is a
God
long
bless.
backlog. I'm not starting at the start. I'm going backwards.
Yeah,
from-
definitely
from-
don't
you lose
start
a
at the
bet?
start because we all right, we sounded
But,
terrible.
Well, I mean, everybody does when they first start. So
Yeah.
the easiest way that you can get in direct contact with me for the show is on Twitter at Sudden Butt. We also have an Instagram at Sudden But Inevitable Podcast. You can go and find everything all in one place, which is our live stream videos and our audio podcasts at twistmyarmpodcast.com/SBI. That's part of the network that the Twist My Arm Network is where we're a part of. So That's the easiest way to get a hold of us, Twitter, Instagram, and obviously you can subscribe to Sudden But Inevitable wherever you get podcasts. We try to go live every Friday night at 8:30 Mountain Time. Usually it's within 5 to 10 minutes of that, but we do stream that on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, so you can watch us live. And then the podcast version of that comes out every Monday morning. And I personally think that's the best way to listen because you get all the fun audio cues and you get a little higher sound quality. So that's definitely the easiest way to check out the Sudden But Inevitable rewatch.
Yes, definitely listen to them. I listened to episode 11 today on my drive. It's a good show. If you like Firefly, definitely listen. If you don't like Firefly, you should listen and then be convinced that Firefly is good. And also, I was on it as well, so you should listen to that episode. Like if everyone that listens to this show went and downloaded that episode, it would be amazing. I think it'd be great. Just have this huge spike in listenership. I think that'd be cool as hell.
I do too.
Yeah, and definitely people that listen to this show, definitely go check them out. They're great. Also, people that listen to this show, you should check us out. Go to our stuff at facebook.com/Cheapseat Reviews. We're on Twitter at CheapseatCast. What else? I don't know. I have a script. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do the game. I didn't do the other thing, right? I'm already in my outro. Did we do the quote game last week, guys? I don't remember.
Sam wasn't here, and I don't remember because I've slept. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, we didn't.
All right. Well, let's just do. So the quote game. Tonight's quote is, quote, "I wish I knew how to quit you." That's the quote. So there you go.
Are we supposed to guess what movie it's from?
No,
I know the movie.
Yeah,
I do too.
It's from it's basically for the listeners. Occasionally, well, by occasionally I mean once, we had someone send me a message and say, "Hey, this is what the quote is." Thank you, listener Andrew. You're the man. Not this Andrew, a different Andrew.
I'm not the man.
No, not in this case. You usually are. But
he's just a placeholder, just poor Andrew.
It's just the guy who I forget that he's on the show. Anyway, now I can get back into my outro. Facebook.com/ I already said that. Cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com is the easiest way you can get a hold of all of our back catalog. Be like Jesse and go and listen to old episodes.
Except that one.
Except
whatever you do, not that one.
Just not
that one is just the worst.
Not that one. Click on the other one. There you go. No, that's a good one. It's
You'll
funny,
realize it when you get there.
I keep seeing posts on Facebook, or not Facebook, on Twitter, like, "Hey, link us your favorite episode." And it's like,
good Lord.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I liked the one we did on Hot Fuzz, or I'm saying, like, it's not that I liked the episode. It's just like I liked the movie.
One where Andrew fell asleep and started snoring.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
You know your old win.
Picking a favorite child. Every episode is sort of your baby.
Okay.
Oh, maybe that's just me.
No, I mean, again, 11 episodes, you can kind of look back pretty recently and go, yeah, these were the good ones and these were the whatevers. But
yeah,
I mean, the three of us are struggling to remember what happened last week. And so I know that Will was on and I forgot Sam wasn't. So, I mean, there we go. What else am I trying to say? I'm also trying to say is please leave us a review. Go to your phone, leave us a review on iTunes. It's the best way to help to boost the rating of the show. Go to Sudden But Inevitable and leave them a 5-star review. That would be awesome. Because they, unlike me, will actually read your review on air. I don't do that, but I should, but I don't.
If we ever had it, we would.
Well, we actually have gotten one. Actually, we got one pretty recently, believe it or not. We had one.
I haven't checked it 8 years.
No, we had one not that long ago. Somebody posted, and it was.
Is it just embarrassing to not read them? Is that what it is?
No, he said
since we never get any.
I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to break tradition and say Road Rage Randy, February 24th, posted this saying, "A great listen. Like this review. The podcast is short and to the point. Great sound quality. Love it."
We're short?
I mean, we're at an hour and 40 minutes of recording right now, and if he's thinking that this is a short episode or a short show, then I'm impressed.
He's got more patience than I've got.
No kidding. Maybe he was
just
listening.
One of those guys that drives a lot.
Maybe he was listening to back when we were like only at 45 minutes before we had guests on. Not blaming this on you, Jesse. I'm just saying it's what happens when we have guests on.
Dude, we have 11 episodes that comprise, I think, 20 hours.
Yeah.
So, like, trust me, long podcasts, not new to me.
And I still feel like I'm getting some like residual grief about the blue hands people and the stick thing. Like I feel like
It was Cameron yesterday.
Yeah.
But what I love about that is that Cameron is doing that because Cameron is listening to our shows and going, hey, here's a point that I brought up, which I'm sure as a podcaster, having somebody listen and then like make a point is like the most exciting thing that there is. So like even if Cameron was being a little contentious on that, I fully appreciated what he was doing.
I know we're way past the point of no return here, but I will say, admittedly, the coolest moment for me for the podcast is when someone called me out for having listened to the show. Now, I didn't know that I knew them. In fairness, it was listener Andrew, who submitted the thing recently. He worked at the same university I did. I didn't know that he worked there, and we had a mutual friend, and I didn't know that. So I'm literally working on a ladder with my head in the ceiling, and he said a line from the podcast. He quoted our episode 50, "You can't keep a good robot down" from Star Crash. And I poked my head back down, and he's just smiling, and I'm like, did you just quote my podcast? And he goes, yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so that was kind of the coolest thing ever for me.
Anyway. I think the coolest thing for me was the hate mail that we got.
Yes. Yeah, Jesse, when you get hate mail, you've made it. With that having been said, cheapseatreviews.gmail.com is the way you can email us. If you're still listening to this show, thank you so much, and God bless you. That's it, and I have nothing more to say other than on behalf of Jesse, again, thank you so much for being here. Andrew and Sam, this is Sean saying thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time for, I forgot to tease this, next week we're doing the Godzilla versus Kong. Kong versus Godzilla, whatever it's called.
Woohoo.
That's what we're doing next week. Go watch it. That's it. Goodbye.
Take look.
This is Cheap Seat Reviews.